Mass immigration has been flooding the Western world for over a decade now, and it's only getting worse. The difference is that problems with mass immigration are finally hitting home, and people have had enough. Take the case of Canada, where citizens and immigrants are now suffering from the massive numbers of newcomers arriving every month. Mass immigration is bad for both Canadians and immigrants, worsening the housing crisis, inflation, and unemployment. So why is the Trudeau government so focused on bringing in boatloads of more new immigrants if it doesn't help citizens and existing immigrants? In this video, we're going to bust the Trudeau regime's mass immigration scheme wide open and show how Canada can escape its population trap. In a recent report, economists at the National Bank of Canada raised concerns about Canada being caught in a population trap. The term population trap describes an economic scenario where the rate of population growth necessitates the entirety of available savings to maintain the existing capital-labor ratio. In simple terms, the investment capacity is exhausted in incorporating new individuals into the economy, leaving little room for an overall increase in the standard of living. Canada is getting worse as more and more immigrants pour in, and the irony is that it's also getting worse for existing immigrants who are here trying to build a better life. A population trap occurs when a country experiences rapid population growth without enough jobs or homes to support the growing population. This leads to a situation where increased living standards become unattainable due to the need for all available savings to accommodate the growing population. Put simply, Canada can't keep having this same influx of people every year when it barely has the ability to house and pay for its existing population, including the growing number of homeless and drug addicts roaming the streets. Economist Stephanie Marion compares the situation to having a toolbox too small to fit all the tools needed, making the newcomers less productive due to a lack of capital and resources, and creating a race to the bottom. Historically, the concept of a population trap has been associated with poverty-stricken developing nations, but Canada's recent and rapid population growth, fueled by immigration policies, has put it in a similar predicament. Justin Trudeau has basically caused this problem voluntarily when it could have been completely avoided. Canada's population surged by over 1.2 million people in 2023, a growth rate 5 times higher than the average among OECD nations. While immigration is beneficial for Canada's potential GDP and the numbers might look good on paper, the reality of what this mass immigration is doing to Canada's society and economy is horrific. The challenges of this population trap are evident in various sectors, with the housing market being particularly affected. Canada's housing supply deficit has reached unprecedented levels, with only one housing start for every 4.2 people entering the work-age population, compared to the historical average of 1.8. The economists in this alarming National Bank of Canada report also highlight the importance of capital stock, emphasizing that Canada lacks the necessary infrastructure and capital to effectively absorb the current population growth. Capital stock includes not only housing, but also infrastructure, hospitals, schools, machinery, equipment, and software. Given Canada's current account deficit, attracting foreign capital becomes crucial to growing the country's capital stock and future prospects. Let's be real, how is Canada supposed to make any progress when it's stuck in a population trap? It seems obvious that the mass migration policies of the current Liberal government aren't helping Canadians, including hard-working immigrants who already live here. The obvious answer would be to slow down and reassess the needs and situation of Canadians. So why is Trudeau keeping people flooding in at this rate if it doesn't help landed immigrants or Canadians? It's actually part of a mass immigration scam that's anti-Canadian and anti-immigrant. Trudeau has said he wants to bring in 500,000 immigrants a year and has shown no desire to slow down, even now that the negative impact is clear. Part of where the hypocrisy and awful impact of this can be seen in Canada's higher education sector, where foreign students are scamming the system and being scammed in ever-increasing numbers. As Canadian journalist Aran Maharaj recently noted, Canada's government is engaging in a cynical scam around granting visas to immigrants, particularly regarding profitable international students. Initially designed to link international study permits with immigration to bring in younger individuals with work experience, the system has been exploited, resulting in a surge of students who are using the system to get into Canada, often without being real students or having really been accepted. Maharaj describes a highly disturbing multi-level scam involving unscrupulous agents, unregulated colleges, and fake admission letters. The influx of students often chasing unrealistic dreams that they don't intend to pursue and are only listing in order to get a visa has led to issues like overcrowded basements and illegal stays. On the flip side, there's an even more disturbing scam where students are brought in to have their money taken and be pressured into low-paid jobs without being able to leave, worsening Canada's economy and bloating higher education costs. Many students from abroad have fallen prey to scams where they believe they have valid admission that they are actually fake or unrealistic. They come over to Canada only to realize they've been tricked. The media's response varies, but generally they have refused to do much investigation into this scam that's taking place. The vast majority, especially from less reputable institutions, find themselves chasing unattainable dreams in useless degree courses or overpriced colleges. Concerns about overstays and illegal statuses emerge, but the mainstream media is only concerned about helping these fake and duped students find legal ways to stay. Issues range from fake admissions to overcrowded living conditions, and especially students being taken advantage of from nations like India, who come to Canada and end up having to work in low-paid jobs to pay for their education, leading to a cycle of debt. The money paid by many of these international students is not benefiting their education, but is instead contributing to administrative bloat in universities. There's a strong misuse of the international student system where students are enrolled in courses they might not be genuinely interested in just to fulfill immigration requirements. The role of questionable labor market impact assessments, or LMIAs, is also a huge issue, and some employers, including fast food franchises, exploit the system by selling LMIA to students seeking work permits, even when those students are actually just taking away jobs that would go to Canadians. The process becomes a form of indentured servitude, with students working to repay hefty loans for LMIA, making it challenging for them to advance financially. The language barrier is also mentioned, with concerns about the authenticity of English proficiency certificates obtained in India. Many students come with language limitations as they speak local dialects instead of the formal written language. This poses a severe barrier to employment, often leading them to jobs within existing immigrant communities where exploitation is rampant. The current influx of international students driven by economic motives and the pursuit of cheap labor is resulting in various additional issues as well, including sexual exploitation and human trafficking. It's gotten so bad that there are now warnings in Indian newspapers about the risks of trafficking, signaling a growing awareness of the challenges faced by international students in Canada. There's a definite message being sent to young impressionable people who might believe that success in Canada is only achievable through illicit means and paying their dues through a sick and exploitative system. Trudeau's Canada just wants to help colleges profit from international students, who then get locked into low-paid jobs and drive down wages. But it's horrible for existing immigrants and Canadians who want to earn a living and live in a well-functioning society. When you get to the issues of basic Canadian identity that are happening because of the hundreds of thousands of newcomers a year from every corner of the globe, many of these people are coming from places with long-standing conflicts, as we've seen, for example, in recent violent protests by Palestinian Canadians and by Sikh Canadians. They are bringing their problems to Canada and targeting and protesting those they hate on Canadian streets instead of integrating. There's a real need for immigrants to embrace Canadian identity and abandon old conflicts. Canada is losing its core identity and shared destiny due to the large influx of immigrants, exacerbated by multiculturalism policies. It's crucial to manage immigration for economic, socio-economic, and ethical reasons. The excessive influx of international students and temporary foreign workers, coupled with multiculturalism policies, is contributing to the loss of Canadian identity. When the ideology of wokeness, which venerates historically disadvantaged minorities, gains control in a society like Canada, the repercussions extend beyond superficial changes such as stocking tampons in men's bathrooms in the military. Mass immigration driven by white guilt and bizarre far-left ideologies not only fuels cultural tensions but also results in economic stagnation and a surge in housing costs. As noted, the addition of 1.2 million new residents in 2023 is exacerbating the housing crisis, exceeding the populations of most Canadian cities and 8 provinces and territories. Interestingly, these policies find support not only from Justin Trudeau's left-wing coalition government, but also from the self-proclaimed popular populist conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre focuses on building homes rather than reducing immigration, driven by his neoliberal economic stance. However, he's also cautious of the accusation of racism from the progressive media, deterring politicians from questioning mass migration. Despite Trudeau's announcement of record-breaking immigration targets, surveys show 67% of Canadians oppose them, reflecting widespread discontent. With just one housing start for every 4 new entrants to the workforce and escalating rents, even liberal Canadians are expressing dissatisfaction. Where did this whole obsession with opening the gates to anyone and everyone come from in Canada? The simple answer is self-hatred and a descent into a far left-wing form of anti-nationalism. Canada's elite grapples with a pro-immigration consensus originating from the country's identity crisis after the decline of the British Empire. The void was filled with 1960s left liberalism, portraying Canada as a kinder and gentler version of the United States open to everyone. Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, played a role in introducing more liberal immigration policies and the controversial 1971 Multiculturalism Act. Its 1988 successor institutionalized the promotion of multiculturalism as a fundamental characteristic of Canadian heritage, while the 1982 Constitution allowed for racial discrimination in hiring and sentencing, making immigration questioning taboo. Justin Trudeau, inheriting his father's perspective, asserted in 2015 that Canada has no core identity, no mainstream, reflecting a cultural left belief system that prioritizes minorities over majorities, leading to speech policing and reverse discrimination associated with wokeness. This ideological framework stifles immigration debates. Canada serves as an example of how cultural leftism aligns with global capitalism, evident in Toronto's congested Highway 401 and uncontrolled urban sprawl. In Vancouver, resistance to expansion is met with accusations of racism and xenophobia, putting constant pressure on established neighborhoods and diminishing the quality of life for residents. The misconception that immigration resolves aging issues with no opposition justifies higher immigration numbers. The Century Initiative, an elite lobby group advocating for a supersized Canada of 100 million people, sacrifices quality of life, per capita income, and social cohesion for an envisioned migration utopia. These people don't care about how life is for everyone else on the road to their extreme goal that will make Canada even more open to immigration. The irony, of course, is that more and more immigrants are suffering because of mass immigration. But elite Canadians and progressives don't care about the suffering of real immigrants if their ideology and virtue signaling can continue marching on and the numbers keep going up. The reality of what's going on is far from the fantasy dreamed up on the far left or in Trudeau's delusional cabinet rooms. To escape the population trap, Canadians need to elect a government who will put in place common-sense immigration policy that puts the brakes on the massive influx that's been arriving every day. In terms of the student visa scam and the issue with this underclass that's being exploited and sometimes also exploiting Canada's immigration system, much more needs to be done as well. Numerous changes need to be made in the student visa system in Canada, including limiting the percentage of international students in educational institutions and abolishing private colleges for international students. There's a real lack of political will to address the issues and propose bold solutions, including shutting down the study permit program temporarily and reevaluating the entire system. There must be a shift in the narrative, challenging the perception that advocating for changes in immigration policies is racist or prejudiced. It's not. Canada needs to match population growth with actual economic growth and start working towards making more affordable housing to house the millions of Canadians who don't know how they're going to pay for their next rent check. If you